give their lives, sin cannot be truly defeated.
Life is but a passing dream, but the death that follows is eternal. If you're offering your lives, I will have to take them.
The sacred officers of this court seek nothing but absolute truth in Yevon's name.
I will learn to control it from within. I have all the time in the world.
Grand Maester Micah, please send Seymour now.
I see. You came to punish me then. What a pity. Very well. I will give you your death. You seem to want it so.
The only means of destroying sin is forever gone. Now nothing can stop us. Your hope ends here, and your meaningless existence with it.
Dude, Seymour, I'm filming an introduction for my summoner. Could you just shut up and stop talking that depressing nonsense, please?
What is this?
Sin has chosen me. I am part of sin. I am one with sin forever.
What the? You desecrate that sacred book with nudes? That's enough. You're gonna pay for that.
Ascending so soon?
Unpleasant.
And so much for that problem. And now let's start with the equipment basics and my personal preferences. As you can see here, on my gear I'm mainly focusing on reaching the highest crit rating as possible, because critical hit is the most progressive value and your damage benefits more and more the higher the stat goes. Secondly, I go for direct hit, which always boosts the output and high numbers of your damage on a solid level, and also turns out to be a nice addition to critical hit, not only for reaching the highest numbers with Death Flare or Bahamut Flare, by the way, that is most important for your coolness rating. The third and last stat to aim at is Determination, because it boosts your overall output again and lays a solid foundation to your heavy crits and direct hits. The one stat to completely ignore is Spell Speed, because as summoner you have so many off global spells that are used apart from any source of spell speed. A pet that has no benefits from it, and like the description of spell speed points out, there is no boost to dot damage anymore. So just ignore spell speed. In Stormblood the secondary stats take on a leading role and their impact on damage increased. Of course intelligence is the best one after weapon damage, but you should not sacrifice 20 or 30 secondary stats for 3 to 4 intelligence. That's at least what my experience in raids etc. had shown me. Therefore I am overly stacked up with crafted accessories and pieces from Eureka, which allow you to melt in 5 big 40 stat materia into one single piece of gear without having the ability to overmelt anything. So aim for the Eureka chest, head and weapon at least, when not having a static savage raid, providing you 370 gear in every slot. Yeah, and so much for the equipment. Always remember it's my personal preference and not carved in stone. And now to the mechanics the summoner evolves around. First of all, like the warlock, you are able to control mighty pets that boost your and your group's damage as well. There you can choose between a tanking pet, the yellow one, a melee pet, the red one, and a caster pet, the blue one. For our luck, you project them all into cute little carbuncles that have the same stats and abilities like the fake primals. For dealing damage, your choice should be made between the red and blue. I personally go for Ifrit, the red one, cause it's more easy to handle and has a slightly better damage output. At the pet's disposal you always line up Rouse and Enkindle to grant him a big special attack that hits all enemies in its range or in front of it, which is a massive AoE and also a solid single target spell. The timer of Rouse is much shorter, but don't worry, with Enhanced Enkindle you are able to decrease the remaining cooldown of Enkindle with procs of Ruin Mastery. Furthermore, with Ether Pact you can boost the damage of the party by 2 and healing by 5%. My advice here for casual raids or dungeons is to line it up with the pull of the tank. And now for everything Your Majesty the Summoner has to do. First of all, always hold up the damage on time effects, Bio 3 and Miasma 3, on the target. Always do this by Tri-Disaster, which also boosts the damage of any kind of ruin spell on the target, and only recast them manually when you don't have Tri-Disaster free. When that is secured, you always start casting Ruin 3, until you have a proc of Ruin 4, then you use that instead. In addition, keep holding Shadow Flare on cooldown, and lay it in a good spot under the boss or group. The more foes are in, the better. And now, before spamming Ruin 3 mindlessly over and over again, your primary goal is to work around the Ether Flow mechanic. That mechanic begins with the identically named spell that grants you 3 stacks of Ether. Pro tip here, use Ether Flow as soon as possible to have those 3 stacks available at all time and to have Ether Flow ready again when the combat starts. For instance, before signing up to a dungeon or raid by Party Finder, click Ether Flow. The Ether is used for 4 abilities. The first one is Fester, a heavy single target spell which you should always prefer on boss fights over the other. The next one is Energy Drain, a single target spell that also drains HP from the target to your HP pool and restores a small amount of MP. Only use it on the opener or when you have to race and need MP dramatically. The third one is Pain Flare, an AoE spell that causes heavy damage to more than one target. Always use this in the case you have more than one target, cause then it deals more damage than Fester and that increases the more targets you have. Bane, which is the last one and spreads your Bio and Miasma effects to all enemies next to your target. This is your best ability to build up dots on a group pull in dungeons or boss fights with adds, to secure a fast application of your dots on multiple targets. With that in mind, we continue directly to another mechanic that is the follow-up of your Ether mechanic, the Dreadworm Trance. After spending all 3 stacks of Ether, you are now able to use Dreadworm Trance, in which you can perform Ruin 3 while moving and your overall magic damage is increased by 10%. Furthermore, it resets the active cooldown of your Tri-Disaster, so keep an eye on timing that wisely as well. The best advantage with that trance is to have access to Death Flare, which is the most epic spell you will ever see and one of your main damaging abilities. For boss fights, always use Death Flare at the end of your trance, so that you get the trance profits as long as you can. An exception remains for group pulls or big stacked up enemy packs. There you always want to hit the biggest number of enemies with your Death Flare. That at least is 200 potency per enemy more, which cannot be compensated by a long use of Dreadworm Trance. After the Dreadworm Trance, if ended by Death Flare or by time, you will then receive 1 dragon emblem called Dreadworm Ether, from which you need 2 to be able to summon the almighty Bahamut. That means repeating the whole cycle 2 times, you are now able to summon Bahamut. This is when your rotation is at its cataclysmic climax, and Bahamut will replace your actual pet for the time of 20 seconds. Bahamut has some special abilities and behavior. The first is the spell called Enkindle Bahamut, which appears as Bahamut blasting the target and all enemies near it with Akmorn. That is even more powerful than your Death Flare, with a basis of 680 potency on the main target and lowering by 10% the more targets get hit. At least that ability transforms the summoner into the god of group damage, because during its uptime you can command Bahamut to make this nice cataclysm 2 times, and you should start directly after summoning him, alone for a sweet welcome greeting to your enemy. The second mechanic of Bahamut is him, repeating every ability you use with 150 potency, Worm Wave. That means on every ability you click, even supporting spells like Lucid Dreaming, Mana Shift and so on, Bahamut will cause a Worm Wave. Therefore you can save up some of the MP transfer spells or Enmity Reducer for that 20 seconds, hanging around with your fine dragon. One last thing to mention about roll commands, with the next patch I think it is 4.4, there will be a large rework of that section, so it doesn't need to be concerned with much effort. The one thing here that is crucial is Swift Cast, which makes your next spell an instant cast, which is used best in combination with Resurrection. This combo makes you an awesome supporter for all emergency your group or raid could suffer from, so never hesitate to raise other people. You are best at it. Until the Red Mage came, of course. So, with all that in mind, everything is prepared to crush your enemies and to show you the opener rotation in detail. You start by drinking an In Potion and using Ether Pack to boost the raid's or party's opener, followed by Tri Disaster and smashing in Energy Drain, Fester and Pain Flare all after another, while applying Shadow Flame underneath the enemy and using some Rune 4 procs. Then you instantly boost your pet's attacks by Rouse and Enkindle after switching into Bahamut Trance. After entering Dreadworm Trance, you spam in some Rune until 3 or 2 seconds remain, where you blast the target with Death Flare and instantly clicking Ether Flow again to start off a second opener, but this time with Patience and only Fester combined with some Rune 3s. And when your dots wear off, recast them with Tri Disaster, and after the last Fester, enter Dreadworm Trance again. That only is possible when having Ether Flow ready by preparing your Ether Flow stacks right before queuing or during walking times, etc. Finished by Death Flare, you now hear that nice sound mentioned before, which tells you it's Bahamut time, whom you summon directly after hearing that sound and immediately activating Enkindle Bahamut to let him breath down the foes with Akmorn. Then smash in all utilities like Enmity Decreasers or MP Regen spells and reapply Tri Disaster when needed. After 13 seconds, you will command Akmorn again and let Bahamut disappear. After that, you have to start over from the beginning when Ether Flow is reactivated again. Let's see how that works off in a real combat situation. Here you start off with drinking and buffing your raid group with Ether Pact, followed by using Tri Disaster and smashing out all your Ether abilities like Fester, Pain Flare and Energy Drain, while buffing your pet with Rouse and Enkindle, and using Shadow Flare underneath the boss. Then you merge into Bahamut Trance and cast off one rune after another until you finish it with Death Flare, to start off the second cycle by using Ether Flow again. Now you start smoothly by switching between Fester and Rune 3, and always make use of every Rune 4 proc you receive. This is repeated until you enter the second Bahamut Trance and repeat that Rune 3 spamming cycle until Death Flare followed by that sweet "Now it is time for Bahamut" noise, which tells you to summon him immediately and casting his Akmorn. Then you do your Enmity Reducers and AP Regen spells to throw in some more auto hits from Bahamut, until you use the second Enkindle Bahamut. When he finally disappears, you will be waiting for Etherflow to start the whole thing again. After that, let us take a closer look at the summoner's real expertise, namely the group damage. Here your main goal is to apply all of your dots on every foe that is in range and near your position. While doing that, you can also smash in as many Pain Flares and finish with Death Flare. If you have more than 3 enemies, use your Ether for Bane to spread the dots around and to save you precious time and advantages to go in with crazy Bahamut explosions, which is most heavy the more targets it hits. In an optimal situation you have all of this stuff ready together. In this small pulse, try to apply dots to every mob manually instead of using Bane, and use your Ether for Pain Flare and to benefit from their increased worth because you didn't apply them with Bane. In low level dungeons, the same mechanics apply as well by hitting many targets with Pain Flare while spreading dots and finishing with Death Flare. For single target boss fights, use the resources that are still left for you until your Bahamut returns to your side again. I don't want to disappoint you, but that's the wrong dragon. That's Deathwing. Yeah, that's Godzilla. First of all, that is no dragon, and secondly, the animation sucks. Come on, show me some real Bahamut, please. Dude, really? Do you hate me so much? Is that really a chocobo dressed up like a dragon fighting a dragon to the theme of Nidhogg? Oh man. Finally, that's what I meant. If with your Bahamut or not, you definitely have taken the right choice of a damage dealer. Not only through its power in AoE damage, but also his ability to rescue a dying group or save a whole realm from dying. In addition to that, you also level a healing class, the Scholar, to quicken up your queuing times for dungeons and raids. And with Death Flare, you always get some bonus points in epicness. Thank you for enduring this long video. I hope you had your fun and knowledge out of it. Have fun with your summoner and always keep smashing the Etherflow button and maybe the subscription or like button. See you in the next video. Until then, take care.
Riku, run ahead and tell Auron.